leverage. Never before. We are in the worst spot that we have been in as American workers in the longest time, or basically as people that are not ultra wealthy. Because basically, 1% of people have as much as 90% of us. When 1% of people have that much power, the rest of us don't have any. So it basically comes down to this: if you're working 40 hours a week and are still barely scraping by, you can't force change. Most of us are broke because if you're broke, you can't fix the system, right? That's what it really comes down to, is they keep us broke to not for profits, but to control us. Type me if you feel this, because every single person was told the same thing: work hard, study in school, and you'll get ahead. But that's not the case anymore. The majority of Americans are working harder than ever and still falling farther behind. And the reason is, if you have to work 40 hours a week, and that's just for what you need to live, not anything besides necessities. If you're working 40 hours a week and you still are barely getting what you need to live, then you're not going to have enough energy to question it. You're not going to have time, energy, or money to ask why. That's what this all comes down to. If you spend the majority of your waking hours toiling away, not for the things that you want to make your life better, but for the baseline, for the things you need to survive. Well, people that are struggling to survive can't ask why, and they certainly can't come together to fix it. Let's wonder, why can't a bunch of people who don't have their needs met come together to fix it? Because that's how they turn on us, basically. They make it easy. If it's either, oh, protect your neighbor that they've made a stranger, or we'll make it so that your family is okay, right? We're always going to choose our family. But we only do that in times of scarcity. In times of abundance, we come together, right? Well, that's why it's so important that 1% of people have as much as 90% of us. What this really comes down to is recognizing that our economic situation and our political situation is tied together. Who amongst us has been like, all right, if we just get 3.5% of us protesting in the streets, then things will change? I hate that statistic because it gives people false hope. It equates power with people. That is not power. We never, getting 40, 50 million people to agree is not how you actually change things, because power doesn't lie in the halls of Congress. Power is with the people who control your food, who control your medicine, who control your housing. It comes down to, we need control over the essentials, because if somebody else controls where your food comes from, they can manipulate you. If somebody else is in charge of your housing, they can manipulate you. And shit, if somebody's in charge of your medicine, I think about this all the time. You know, the big pharmacies, this is where it's so funny when we say the 3.5%. We could get 5, 7, 10 million people out on the streets. All the corporations have to do is say, anybody protesting doesn't get any medicine. You are not allowed to shop at our pharmacies. Or the grocery stores could just say, hey, nobody that is protesting can shop at our grocery stores. Boom. That's power. When you control a nation's medicine supply, hey, anybody that's protesting and their family does not get any insulin, right? That's power. People that are protesting cannot go to a corporate grocery store. That's power, right? So what we need to understand is control over the essentials is power. Controlling our food, controlling our healthcare, controlling our housing. Because think, if we controlled the food supply, we could tell them no. If we controlled medicine and healthcare, they wouldn't be able to tie our house to our job to our healthcare. So it's, oh yeah, endure this crappy job because that's the only way your family gets healthcare. And what we need to do is understand that these rallies, this pushback, all of this change that we're trying to go for does nothing unless we also change our economic choices. But that's actually kind of what's cool about all this, is that it's not about growing your own food or making your own medicine. That is the last thing, because the majority of people aren't going to do that. That's like telling people, that's like being mad at people for not building their own house, right? That's it. So what we've got to understand is that we are already the ones providing the goods and services. People get lied to and they say, oh, the corporations do everything. We ride on the backs of the elites, right? No, we don't. They ride on ours. We are the ones that actually grow the food. We are the ones that make our medicine. We're the ones that provide healthcare. So what we need to do is connect these protests and mass actions with these local alternatives that reduce our dependence on corporations. We just have to think of it that politicians and corporations have teamed up to screw us over, because they know when people are working the majority of their waking hours and they're still barely affording what they need to live, they don't have a lot of time to ask why. How did things get this way? Why are they like this? And has it always been this way? Because I can tell you that right now, it has not always been this way. Isn't that so funny? People try to be, oh, this is just being an adult. Oh, this is just the way things have been. I'm pretty sure that working 40 hours a week and still having to choose between food and housing is not normal. I know it was not normal in the previous generations, or it wasn't as normal. And then shit, you look at the greatest generation. That's when people were able to support an entire family on one salary, right? And so they brainwash us and tell us lies like we can't do it. Because what's so funny to me is, what did the world look like, right? So, and then that's the question, is when will it be enough? 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours? We never ask the question, right? Lily, there are always groups that have been marginalized. I do not downplay that. But now it turns out there was a small percentage that was not being able to get by, and now it's a large percentage. Not at all. It used to take one person working 40 hours to afford enough for a household. It's stats, right? It's so funny. Just wait a couple minutes. We'll wait until we get a couple more people in here. Because here's the thing. If you think differently than this, we don't care. We're not trying to convince you. And it's funny, people come in day after day because this frustrates them. This upsets them, right? All we're literally saying is that, hey, it used to be that when we made money for the company, we got paid as well, right? That's Lily, I'm not going to argue about you. It's so funny where I have always been a person that has seen this pushback, done everything that I could. And just because you see me now, that's where you think that I'm new to the game. And it's so funny because that's what they want us arguing, right? They want us arguing over, oh, black, white. Let's argue about who had it worse, who's had it bad for longer. When really the people that are speaking out have seen how marginalized groups have had it worse for centuries. But now I thought everybody was supposed to speak out, do what they could. But so many times when I speak out, it's, oh, this guy's just learning. Da, 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 da. It's like, I thought that all of us were supposed to do what we can to try to educate others. Because a lot of times when they see somebody looking like them speaking this word, so why can't that be enough? It's just so frustrating. I'm here every day, willing to talk about anything. But then it's, oh, now that it's affecting your community, and it's like, whoa, I have kind of been talking about this forever. And to be able to see it and wonder, oh, what can we do about it? You work towards changing it in your own small ways. You see that America's collective conscious is changing, is opening up. Shit, you talked to the majority of the general public a decade ago about a general strike. They're going to look at you like you're crazy, right? Now people hear a general strike and they understand the connection between our economic situation and our political one. I know, Caleb, it's so funny, but I don't think that was the case here. They've been very kind since then and simply responded to what I was saying. But that's where it's really hard. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable speaking of marginalized groups who have been going through this the longest time, because if I did, it's basically people waiting to jump on it rather than, oh, hey, maybe we can, educate this person if they have a wrong thing. Or it's almost like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt until they show otherwise. And that's what it is. Being up here every day and still not getting the benefit of the doubt can be a little frustrating. But I get it. Hey, we've been bad for a long time. So that's where we'll go ahead and turn that back around the best that we can. And all that we can do is what we can do, right? So where we are really pushing towards, speaking of marginalized groups, you want me to say it's a combination of the Montgomery bus boycott and the Rainbow Coalition. That's what we need. That's literally all we've been talking about, is tying the economic situation to the political one. Rainbow Coalition went ahead and built alternative systems and showed people that things did not need to be this way. And at the exact same time, we have the Montgomery bus boycott who was applying pressure. That's what this is. Because, Brenda, they always steer us into lanes that do not work for us, right? I know, me too, Caleb. I would say that's my biggest downfall. But it's as soon as somebody responds nicely, I mean, that person was very kind right afterwards. So, but that's exactly what we need to do. It's not only put on the political pressure of a strike, because if that is all that we do, we still don't control where our food comes from. And controlling our food is pretty important. This is all about leverage. So essentially, we are tired of not having leverage. And we are tired of asking. We are going to start demanding. But the only way that we can demand things is if we take back control of what we need to live. Not all of it, but just some of it. It's called negotiating power, right? And you don't need to hold all the cards to have leverage, to have negotiating power. You just need to hold enough to force the other person's hand. Or the other entity's hand, because right now it is the people of America against corporations and politicians. They have teamed up. Now we need to hit it up with some morphin time so that we can start fixing it. The only way that we have morphin time, for my non-Power Rangers friends out there, that is when the Power Rangers came together to defeat the villain, but they couldn't do it on their own, right? They had to come together. But that's honestly the fallacy in a lot of our thinking. We think that if we just come together, if enough of us say we've had enough, if enough of us say stop, that things will get fixed for us. Because that's the way it's always worked. Politicians used to work for the people, but they don't anymore. Politicians now work for corporations. So it's not just about coming together, because that's what used to get the politicians to listen. Well, the corporations are a little bit of a tougher cookie to crack. The corporations They only speak one language, and we all know it, right? Money, 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 money. So the corporations speak one language. That's where we need to hit them. And that's where leverage comes in. Boycotting is just leverage over where your dollars are spent. Right now, they have made the free market. They sure seem to have made us dependent on this free market. But they've made it so that for the majority of us, the free market doesn't provide local options, right? There we go, mischief. That is not possible. You want to use the internet, you're going to be using Amazon Web Services. Every single one of us that pays our housing payment, either rent or mortgage, that goes to a corporation. What about your healthcare? Healthcare has to go to corporations, right? Our cars, our gasoline, our transportation, large corporations. Our communication, our internet, large corporations. Our electricity, large corporations. So honestly, no matter how much we change our personal choices, we are stuck. Not to mention food, the majority of Americans live closer to a corporate grocery store. Local alternatives only are a viable option when they're viable, right? If you've got to drive 30 minutes out of the way to go to the local grocery store, that shit is not a viable option. So until alternatives are viable for everyone, for the majority of Americans, we still won't have any leverage because we can't give people a chore and expect that to stick, right? That's what it really is. We can't give people a chore and expect that to stick. What we really need is to show people that there's simply a better way, that we don't need to be a part of this corporate system that stresses us out, drains us dry, and screws us all over. Because we're actually the ones that are doing the hard work, right? We are the economy. But the people that actually do the work to keep the factory running, we're working 40 and 50 hours a week, and it still isn't enough. And what's so crazy is that people don't understand is that when somebody else is underpaid, that screws you over too. That screws all of us over. Because when a person is underpaid, when they can't afford their cost of living, that cost of living doesn't go away. It just gets shifted onto all of us. So if somebody works at Walmart and they can't afford their health insurance, they go to medical assistance and we all help that person pay their health insurance. That is fine if it was an actual emergency. But it's not an actual emergency. It's just the one person up top. It's Mr. Walton and the Walton family taking more than they should from their employees because they know the American people won't do shit. And it's not because we don't recognize it. It's not because it doesn't make us angry. We won't do shit because we can't do shit. They are literally calling our bluff. To the majority of Americans, they're saying, what are you going to do? Not shop at Walmart? We have made it so inconvenient. We've gotten rid of all the other general stores. You can go to Target, but I'm sure we own a big piece of them too. And they are daring you. Yeah, we're going to keep paying your politicians to F you over, right? I just explained to you, we don't have it set up. And shitification is part of it. It's a great, I love that guy who coined that term. So it's not even, we cannot align a list of demands. People that rely on somebody can't demand something, right? If I am the one, I didn't know they had a book too. If I depend on my parents to live, right? Then I can't demand anything from them. I like to say if a 10-year-old goes to their parents, or let's say a 12-year-old goes to their parents and they demand change, well, the parents kind of left, right? Absolutely, Saint. That's what it is. So what we need to do, it's not argue with people who are indoctrinated. That shit, I don't know about you, but that shit don't work. Oh, nice. And he's got my name. So no wonder I like the guy. No, it's like all Corys were born in 1987. What you're saying isn't wrong, Mischief. You are correct. It's just we gotta build up to get there. You are absolutely correct. We have to stop relying on corporations and start relying on each other. But this should have started like 40 or 50 years ago, and when we still had some small businesses left that we could rely on. Because that's what it really is that we have to shop at Walmart almost, because you can't walk out and go to the local general store. There are no more local banks, pharmacies, newspapers, hardware stores, grocery stores, general stores. They're all gone, right? Valentine's Day. Pah! Mischief, this is the small business revolution. We are very aligned, because all corporations is middlemen. Corporations don't do anything. So Saint, that's correct, but we're doing that with one step. We don't tell people, create a food and clothing co-op. We actually give them the very first step. We separate by state. Some people raise their hands and say they want to participate. We give the framework to people that want to be builders. It's not this like one day there's not a co-op and the next day there is. We are creating the groundwork that is needed to replace corporations that extract with co-ops and local businesses that are held accountable, that want to be stewards of the resources that their community needs. Think of it like this: cost plus drugs. Does everybody remember Cuban's thing, or Cuban's company, Cost Plus Drugs, right? Cost plus drugs, we love it because it signals transparency. Cost plus drugs said, oh, medicine shouldn't be something that somebody gets rich off of. We all need medicine to live. So cost plus drugs signals that, hey, all we are doing is taking the cost of the medicine, or our cost of overhead, plus the cost of the medicine, and that's what we sell it to you. Because really all that we want is for our employees to live a nice life, and then we want you to get your medicine. What if we had cost plus food? What if we had cost plus healthcare, cost plus construction, right? Because what it really comes down to is this is a small business revolution. We take back our power from the corporations by reducing dependency on them. Because right now, the only reason that if 1 million of us protested, we still wouldn't get anything done is because on Monday, we go right back to buying from their system. I like to put it like this. It's like the American economy is 10 people that need to make 10 loaves of bread, right? But right now, because we rely on the person with the oven, when we make those 10 loaves of bread, one person takes 5 loaves. And we're all pissed. That means there's 9 of us who helped make the bread, and there's only 5 loaves. So some of us aren't going to eat, right? But the problem isn't that there's not enough. It's the problem is that we don't have any control. We don't have any say. We don't have any leverage. Absolutely, Yabi, that is exactly what we are saying, is that we could have 10 million people protesting, but if the very next day we all go get in our cars owned by those same corporations, and we go to the grocery store that is owned by those same corporations, not only that, we pay our rent and our mortgage. Everyone's mortgage goes to a giant bank whose goal is to screw you over. Everyone's healthcare insurance goes to a giant corporation whose goal is to not give you healthcare. It's so strange. But no matter how much we ask, things will never change, right? And it's not that, Yabi. You were there and then we went off the thing. Redirecting our spending will never be enough. They have made it so it's not choices, right? It's not choices. It's that we're stuck. you can go get as much as you can from the Lancaster Dutch market, but unless you're getting your paper towels and the majority of your food and what you spend each week, think of all the things that we need. But that's where it is, Cloyd. Not everybody has that ability. So just you doing it means nothing until we can get everybody to do it. That's the thing. If there was a Dutch market in every zip code and people had the option, I think that we would be farther along in fighting this battle. But because we don't have the option right now, because they keep us stuck, it makes it tougher. So this is not a ladder that we climb on our own. This is a structure that we have to build together. If you are liking this, join the Discord. So this is not a ladder that somebody climbs. It is a structure that we all build. So first off, somebody starts speaking out, right? I know for me, it was hearing about no kings, and it was, obviously Trump getting reelected, and then like, oh shit, what are we going to do? Somebody started speaking out, right? That's what it is. So cruddy, but that's where I'm with you. No, but not everybody has to. Don't you get it? The Amazon subscription doesn't matter when Amazon Web Services controls everything. So even if every single person gave up their Amazon subscription, Amazon has made the internet so dependent on them that there's nothing that our personal choices can do. All of these four things have to work in symbiotic, in a mutually beneficial relationship. Speaking out needs to be effective. It can't just be grinding our wheels, because what that needs to get people to do is change their personal choices. I forgot, we got a strike coming up, April 5th, for the rest of the month. It is a strike. What we are doing is we're speaking out and asking you to change your personal choices. But what's going to happen is a lot of people aren't able to do that, right? Y'all, we should have a couple months savings in the bank account for us to make a statement when we need to. We should be able to boycott. Both of those things simply require leverage. Boycotting just needs alternatives that are not corporations. But because corporations so meticulously took away our leverage, we don't even have the ability to boycott. And boycotting is just leveraging where your money goes. And corporations have so perfectly taken away our ability to strike because we don't have any savings. And striking is just leverage over where your freaking work and skills and talent goes. Right? Well, we are the government, so as soon as we take it back, it'll be fine. So what this really is we are speaking out, we are changing personal choices, but then people realize, shit, no matter how much of a personal choice I change, even if every person canceled their Amazon subscription, it still wouldn't do anything. Amazon would be just as powerful. And that's the problem. When a corporation is that big, when they don't have to care about any of us, they treat us all like shit, right? Especially when they're beholden to their shareholders. And what it comes down to is, what I am speaking about is localism. What we believe is localism, is that when people own and run their goods and services that are local to them, they offer a better product, they're held more accountable. And that's what needs to change, is that the people that run that operate the goods and services need to be a part of the community. Because here's the problem. When you aren't a part of one community, but you're a part of 10,000 communities, and your goal, you're legally incentivized as a fiduciary to screw over just as many of those communities as you can without the whole thing crashing down. Because what you want to do is extract as much money from 2,000 communities while making sure that the other 8,000 communities don't hate you. And that's why they own the media. Because if they were just screwing us over, right? And that's so funny, not Guitar Guy. So really, 80% of Americans, 208 million people, don't even have a couple $1,000s in savings. But according to you, anyone can start. So that single mom who has just been saving up for their cars, like for their car payment or for their car repairs, they just use $2,000 of their final $4,000 to get car repair. And with that little bit of security, with that little bit of comfort, you want them to go take it and put it down on what? Them taking more of a chance, right? It's so insane that people do not see the advantages. But that's where if you're poor, so here's what it is. So my problem, Guitar Guy. If somebody is working 40 hours a week and that still barely gives them what they need to live, then no, they can't start a business. Because what they will have to do is potentially lose access to the one thing that allows them to cling to survival, right? They lose access. So you had to have the skills. You had to have tools. You are talking to the son of a carpenter. So you had to have tools, right? Where do you get your tools from? Because I can tell you that person that is only making $100 a month after paying their food, their housing, their health care, and they haven't bought new clothes or new shoes or had a haircut, that $100 a month they are making each month is not going to cover their carpentry tools. So that's what it really comes down to. Not only that, you have to have, no, I'm not. Explain to me how somebody, like I will pull up, because I'm literally, it's so funny when people say, you're making excuses, as I'm going to pull up the chart that shows you the average cost of living versus the average salary. So in most places, people are not making money. Like they are putting expenses on their credit card just to make ends meet, just to get by, right? Well, then there we go. So appreciate you, Guitar Guy, because you are our student lesson today. Because every single day people come in, and it's so funny because you guys say the exact same things over and over and over again. So here's what happens. People respond differently to the system based on their environment and experiences. So as we saw our buddy right here, there's no problem at all, right? There's nothing wrong because I'm doing just fine and the people I know that are doing fine. And life has just always been like this. This is just what being an adult is like. Wrong. Ask your grandparents if this is what life was like in America. Or what do they say next? That, Guitar Guy gave it to us too. The problem comes down to personal choices, right? They must be doing something wrong. Other people aren't just trying hard enough. Caleb, we've all heard it. That's what's so funny. And Caleb, you've been here enough that you'll see, we'll see people doing the same thing every single day. It's funny. And really, we don't fault them because people come to different levels of understanding based on their environment and their experiences, right? Hold on one second, y'all. How do the doors open? Okay, I'll be right up. Well, it'll have to wait, but basically, everybody comes from a different understanding. We don't need to fight with the people who don't believe there's a problem because it's going to be a lot more energy. But I got to get going, y'all. I appreciate everybody. Have a great day.